During the last 10 years we have gone from a small remnant of the Enclave to defeating two of the strongest nations in the wasteland, the NCR and Caesar's Legion. And while this has made us come a long way in reforming the whole USA, there is still so much to be done. Currently we are at war with the Northern League, consisting of the Washington Brotherhood and the Broken Coast Pirates, and to defeat them is our first goal. We've already prepared by constructing the first modern navy in the wastelands, which will allow us to naval invade their coast. And to ensure that these invasions are successful, we recreated the Marine Corps and trained 20 Marine divisions out of some of our best men. While we waited for them to be trained and ready, we sent our 80+ ships to achieve naval superiority and destroy our enemy's wooden ships. As expected, they stood no chance. We had more speed, reach and firepower. So once we engaged, all their ships laid at the bottom of the seafloor after less than an hour. Soon the American coast was completely secured and their ships had moved closer to land. So we followed them and made daring attacks in the Columbia River right outside of Seattle and along the Canadian coast. That's where we catched the whole Broken Coast pirate fleet and destroyed them all. During all these battles, our Marines had finished preparing the naval invasions. The plan is to land in Port Ma, a Brotherhood thrall of the Washington Brotherhood, and crush them both from there. But another thing happened as well. We integrated the Lost Hill generals willing to join the US Army, and many of their soldiers choose to join us as well. But enough talking, let's naval invade the Washington Brotherhood.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. Our flags unfurled to every breeze, from dawn to setting sun. We have fought in every clime and place where we could take a gun. In the snow of far-off northern lands and in sunny tropic seas, you will find us always on the job, the United States Marine. Here's health to you and to our
After plenty of battles, most of whom we won, the Washington Brotherhood has been crushed. While this happened, Eureka, a small country who also fought them, joined us voluntarily. We now only have to defeat the Broken Coast to end the Northern League. And with our plenty Marines, we naval invaded every single one of their coastal cities. Still, they didn't surrender and we had to march inland to end their leadership over the area. So we are once again at peace, and while we will soon be at war again, there are few things we need to do first. Core our new lands by constructing civilian power grids, and start rebuilding the area by forming the Northwest Commonwealth and launching several projects. And as our divisions secured our new borders, they met a group of soldiers claiming to be a detachment of Enclave survivors. To learn more about them, we sent an envoy to their capital, and after some talks they decided to join us, despite some Eastern Enclavists urging them not to. The last thing to do before we start reclaiming more of the USA is to decide what will happen with our Mexican and Canadian states. In Mexico, an insane AI has taken over and formed its own empire that encompasses all of Texas as well. To fight against this, we formed the Mexican Reclamation Zone together with some bandits in Baja California and gave them all our Mexican lands. We also sent a bunch of aid to them to build up the land in preparation for a war with the AI. And this has understandably angered it. So we must prepare for a war in less than 180 days. Turning to Canada, the big question is, should we move to capture the whole country, as it was American land for 5 years before the Great War, or help New Victoria to unite Canada? After some discussion, we decided that uniting Canada ourselves was too much work and reached out to Queen Victoria. Despite her hostile behavior to our old invasion, Granite managed to convince her that we only want the best for Canadians, and she agreed to unite the country with our help. To honor our agreement, we gave her all our Canadian territories. So we can finally return to uniting America, but with the AI probably declaring war in less than 40 days, we won't have the time to attack any strong nations. So we started by attacking 2 tribal states, the Ciphers and Circle Junctions. Due to both having great defensive terrain, it took a while to break through, but we still did it. Circle Junction was the first to fall as we had split their forces in 2. Then, with the encirclement of Mesa Verde, the Ciphers capitulated as well. After that, we decided to turn to a bigger fish, the Whitelegs. They have been at war with New Canaan for a long time, so their forces are distracted. This allowed our power armor troops to rapidly advance with minimal losses. It went so fast, the Whitelegs had no opportunity to regroup, allowing us to encircle their forces and simply continue. Soon we reached Vault 24, and after capturing a few more cities, the Whiteleg tribe surrendered. While we had to split the territory with New Canaan, we did at least keep Vault 24 and its strange inhabitants calling themselves the Timekeepers. The New Canaan government, however, didn't agree with this peace deal and threatened war, hoping to get help from the AI in Mexico. But this was a great mistake. In the first hours of the war, we had already encircled all their forces in their new territories. Then we advanced north towards their big cities. We reached all the way to New Jerusalem without much resistance, however they had prepared a defense in their capital. So to free up troops we started clearing out the south, which was rather easy. Then we turned back north with the reinforcements and crushed their opposition, entering New Canaan. So, with the war now over and the AI soon done with their justification, we must turn our full focus on them. While it's a bit too late, we started forming a Mexican army. Fortunately, however, we do have more than enough troops on the border and several reinforcements. If this is enough, we don't know, as the AI's robot divisions are plenty, but we do have our secret weapons. Our navy, now 260 ships strong, is planning to raid their rivers. 400 super fortresses who will bomb their capital and 20 tank divisions never seen in the wastelands before. Still, the AI didn't flinch and declared war, launching several attacks straight away. While our defenses were strong enough in Mexico due to the river defending us, we had a hard time in the most eastern Texan front. Here, probably thousands of robots had assembled and were probably winning more than half of all battles. We immediately sent reinforcements, and fortunately with our tanks nearby we could stop their advances, only losing a single province. But looking to Mexico, we had left one bridge unguarded, allowing the robots to cross and even encircle 10 of our divisions. After hastily moving reinforcements to the area, we succeeded in freeing our soldiers from the pocket and take back the bridge. So our defenses have been held and our air force has amassed complete air superiority. In addition, our super fortresses have bombed a lot of their factories and infrastructure. This means it is our time to attack. And what better place than where they had almost broken our defenses. We had already assembled our tanks around Los, so we could launch the offensive straight away. After only a few battles, we noticed how only some of their robots could pierce our tanks and that we could outmaneuver them all. So despite the tanks not being suited for urban warfare, the city of Los was captured in record time, also reaching the West Brazos River, cutting the front in two. This gave us a great idea. Since robots are quite stupid, which is why we haven't any in our army, we might be able to encircle all of them by reaching the Gulf of Mexico. And protected on the flanks by 2 rivers, any counterattacks will be difficult. So despite reports of some robots starting to break through, we sent most of our reinforcements and all our tanks to southern Los. After launching the attack, it immediately became apparent that it was going to be successful. Even their heavy robots couldn't defend against our tanks, and while they were smart enough to retreat, they weren't fast enough, so our tanks could encircle them and let our infantry destroy them. The only issue we faced was that we were too fast. Both for our infantry who couldn't keep up and our tank divisions who lost their organization. But these issues are nothing compared to what the AI faces. Because our operation was a great success and we reached the Gulf of Mexico in Port Lavacha. So all their Texan holdings except Pecos is now encircled, and to keep them from leaving we've already sent our navy to deal with any convoys. We immediately launched operations to close the encirclement, but it took a long time to succeed. Still, Dallas and Houston were both liberated and the encirclement was closed eventually. While we did, one of our generals had crossed the Rio Grande River into Mexico despite it not being the plan, and the Mexican army had also crossed the river. However, despite having crossed them and destroyed more than 100,000 robots, attacking here would be too predictable. Instead, we will naval invade central Mexico to try and reach León, their capital. The plan is to split our invasion in two parts. One that will land in El Foro so we can establish a resupply hub, and the second will go deeper along a river towards La Masita. Then, since the front will be quite big, we have several reinforcements ready to be shipped over. So with everything planned and ready, we launched the invasion. And just as planned, there were almost no garrisons in the area and we easily landed in Tepic and El Foro. We even had the opportunity to expand our beachhead. The second invasion was just as successful and our marines could enter their capital after only a few days. Sadly, the AI is a decentralized entity, so capturing one of his bases didn't kill it. Fortunately, this is why we have our reinforcements. Because after cleaning the front lines a bit, we sent in 60 infantry divisions. And they arrived just in the right moment. The robots had just started arriving and were launching a big counter-offensive. Sadly, León was encircled and the marine division garrisoning it was killed, but our infantry did at least arrive to avenge their death. Expanding our landing more inland, taking back León and encircling a few robot platoons in Ho Chi Minh. Just as that offensive was over, we launched a new one along the coast to capture more ports and widen our beachhead. It too was a great success, which allowed us to bring in our tanks. And you probably remember how effective they were. So effective in fact that they have replaced our power armor units as our strongest division. Using them, we tore a massive hole in the eastern side of the front, then rapidly advanced to the Mexican Gulf to once again divide their forces in two. But this time we don't plan to defeat the northern part. Despite Mexico having done great progress almost creating their own encirclement, we will put our focus in the south. Both because it will be easier and since most of the AI's brain is located around this area. And with 50% of his brain already destroyed, this might be enough to turn him off. With few robots defending our tanks, the star of the show once again rushed to all major cities. As they arrived to one city, the AI was unplugged or blown into bits, and then they promptly continued to its next site. After less than 20 days, we had reached the end of the territory where the AI had established himself, and as we started clearing up the mess we had left behind us, the last computer was destroyed, shutting off all robots in the south and in the north, leaving the Mexican reclamation government to seize all its land without combat. They immediately started work to reconstruct the country, including the old Mexico City, to bring back the real capital of Mexico. And while we will of course help them, we will mostly focus on Texas. But before we could form the Texan Commonwealth, we had to defeat two nations. Bayou Motors, who had a quite strong defensive position but still collapsed, and the Chained Choir, some kind of cult. But we were too fast to register about what. So now we could form the Texan Commonwealth, start projects around the state and explore it a bit more. A long time ago, mutants reigned cities like Los, while many simply want to destroy and kill. Those who are peaceful will definitely be accepted. Another area of great interest is Houston. Just like in Bloomfield Space Center, we found an old rocket which we shot into space to explore and maybe turn on satellites. However, this is for the far future. And that was mostly it. What comes now is a lot more war. But not against any particularly strong nations. Having reached as far east as we plan for now, we must only expand north to territories who are still quite divided. And while we fought in Mexico, Canada had already started this operation. liberating massive swaths of its land from tribes and communists. To divide the conquered lands between us, we signed a border agreement, changing it from the pre-war straight border to a border fitting of the wastelands. But returning to our territories, we will begin our massive liberation in New Vegas. Maybe one of the richest states existing, and despite their limited manpower, they have a big army consisting of normal infantry and robots. And you know what robots mean: tanks. Despite looking like they would hold in the start, as our infantry joined in, they had no chance. Attacking everywhere at the same time, they had it difficult to rest their troops, leading to an eventual exhaustion and the fall of all defensive positions. So at last, the New Vegas casinos, the biggest competitors to our Sierra Madre, have been destroyed. We will now continue to the lands between our new Canaan and the MacArthur base. But one of the nations in this area we didn't have to attack. A small tribal country consisting of sentient raccoons who were nice enough to simply join us. But the rest will have to be crushed. Despite having only planned to conquer the Great White North, we and Canada took over more territories around Steel Town. So the last of our planned Commonwealths can be established, the Great Northern Commonwealth. And once again projects and exploration will take place. The most notable being a geothermal station under Yellowstone. But while we rebuild this, we will already continue our unification of the USA. And this time we will fight against another machine, the realm of Diana. While her army is rather strong together with her ally, we will open several new fronts against her, declaring war on several neighboring countries. We started by attacking the Foragers, whose army was probably one of the weakest in the region, opening a new front with Diana's ally, but also one with the Claim Jumpers, our next target. Using new artillery shells, we annihilated their forces, reaching Diana's territory before she had taken notice. This allowed us to capture Baxter Outpost and Vale's Reach, both extremely defendable cities. In addition, Vault 27 was captured. But with enemy troops starting to arrive, we shifted our attacks to the Withered Dogs, a band of ghouls. While they won't open a front with Diana, they do open one with the Baggers, who too got destroyed, and who opened the front with the Luminous ones. And all this to bypass Diana's defenses in Boulder. Just before the Luminous ones surrendered, we had already achieved our objective of encircling her forces. And once they were much easier to destroy. While she still has some forces on our border, with her elite troops defeated, they stood no chance at holding us back, and we could capture all of her northern territories. We even encircled more troops in the Narrow and in the north. However, it is once again time to shift our attacks, and this time against her ally. We started by attacking with our tanks in the west. Then, as we confirmed that they would break through, we attacked over a river with our marines. Together, the two armies soon reached Diana's territory and captured her capital without resistance. And after only a week more of fighting, the AI surrendered and we turned it off. Some days later, her ally was also destroyed. Other than finding several geek devices, we also saw bald eagles for the first time in centuries. And while exploring our new borders, we found a group of subhuman mole miners in our north. Slowly approaching them and using a local translator, we established trading. After a while, our relations had grown so strong they decided to join us, and despite them not being completely human, we will still recognize them as citizens of the United States of America. A second group we found were some Chinese goals, and this sparked the conversation if China might still exist. While we haven't told it, trading has been established with Hawaii, and one of our ships saw another ship with a Chinese flag. After some discussion, we decided to send a mission to the other side of the Pacific. While we wait for it to return, we will continue with our reunification. Starting with the Great Confederation that are rather strong but divided and still no match for us. First, the dead horses actually became dead after we encircled their capital and captured the rest. Then the Sorrows, who had lost plenty of forces in Dead Horses territory, were also destroyed. The Sleepers, however, had such a defendable territory we couldn't break through. Fortunately, they do border a river, so we immediately started preparing our marines for an invasion. While we waited, Lone Tree was crushed. Back to the Sleepers, the invasion was a great success and our forces capitulated them with few losses. We've now decided to declare war on everyone we have left to integrate before going to Western USA. But I won't go into the technicalities, we simply invaded nation after nation just as usual until our goal and Canada's goal had been reached. So we have done it. All the eastern coast is under our control, including Canada and Mexico. And while we will go to the east, this is for the future. Great news have also arrived from our Chinese expedition. Despite a tense start, our expedition met with their Chinese counterparts and agreed upon that their emperor and granite would meet in Hawaii. In the meeting, a peace deal was signed, officially ending the Great War, and plans for trade were established. This is excellent. Not only do we not have to worry about a second nuclear war, but we now know that we aren't alone in this world anymore. And that's where our adventure will end. There is of course so much rebuilding and exploration left to do, but we are certain this will be a success. Because united we stand, humans, ghouls, mutants and raccoon are willing to completely reunite the United States of America. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.